Alright, what is going on? How is it going? I am, is there no one else? No, of course not, I'm not. I'm Steady Eddie once again. But I am channeling my inner patch notes today to talk about actual stuff in the game. I'm going to look at stat density and a little bit on how to optimize your character and your build in PvP in the same manner that Mr. Patch Notes might. I was going to make this video anyway, but it's even more relevant now because last week Kuroyuki, who you should go and subscribe and all that stuff, released a video about optimization versus fun in builds. And you should watch that first if you haven't, because this is kind of building on that. If you haven't watched it and you have a vendetta against Kuro and you definitely don't want to see it, he basically said that you should choose how to play how you want, but optimize that playstyle and what you're doing. And I'm going to go in a bit more depth on what that means and give a couple of examples of it. But first, what is stat density? Now, I'm not a complete nerd, so I don't have an exact definition, but I did ask Sniker's Bar, the Nightblade, who no longer plays, but was good with stuff like this, and he said, hard to put into words, let me think. A stat-dense build is basically pushing the currently most valuable stats with everything that's available to you. So that's like sets, CP, everything. Back when I played, it was stamina, recovery, weapon damage, and penetration. For example, you can either get penetration or weapon damage from a two-handed weapon type, but depending on how much weapon damage your build already has, usually the penetration is more stat-dense due to simply providing much more damage. It's a more valuable stat. So, in this respect, stat density is how powerful the stats of a certain set are in relation to how many armor slots it takes up. It's not just about an individual set, it's about what you can change or replace on your build after you put that set on. For example, Talk of Tonal Constancy is a one-piece set that can pretty much carry the sustain of my Stamplar on its own, meaning that I choose a different Munderstone and I run double damage sets instead of a sustain set. CP also has to be taken into consideration. Lots of people are excited about Wretched Vitality this patch. However, with CP, how it is, sustain is incredibly easy. So for me, slotting a 5-piece sustain set, no matter how loaded that 5-piece set is kind of completely pointless. So forgive me for not being as excited about Wretched Vitality as some other people are. Now, like Kuro said, that's not to say there's only one build or one way of playing each class that you should definitely do, because that would be fucking boring, wouldn't it? However, at the point that you do decide to play a certain class in a certain way, you should optimize and find the most stat-dense version of that setup. An example is that I've been playing two-handed and sword and board Stamplar for ages, but next patch I know for a fact there's a much stronger build, but it runs dual wield back bar, and I'm just not into that. It's just not my thing. I just don't like it. It's not my style. So instead I'm going to play the best version of the two-handed sword and board setup that I can find. So what we are saying is that there are certain things that are preference, such as playstyle, but at the point that you have a preference, you should do the best version of it. Now, I haven't touched on part of the title yet, which is that Heartlands is shit. Alright, it's a set that people just seem to slap on literally anything. And I'm being dramatic because I don't hate Heartland. It's more that I'm trying to clickbait you to watch my video. But people put it on because it gives, in quotation marks, it gives both offense and defense. But it's very mediocre at both, because it's a double bard set. You're potentially losing out on either a mythic or a monster set, and in turn have a less stat dense build. And I'm going to give an example of how and why this is. So I've got here a pretty basic build that I see thrown around on Discord and YouTube a lot at the moment, and it's 5 Heartlands and 5 New Moons with Wild Hunt Ring and one-piece Crags, or sometimes it's Trainee, sometimes it's Balorg, sometimes it's Bloodspawn for the recovery. And I've also inputted some basic CP, and I've done the basic buffs that you would have if you were a solo player running around Cyrodiil. I've done it on Stamina Templar, because that's my main. this might not be your skill setup, but for all intents and purposes, it's a skill setup that works for some people. And the stats are decent. They're fine. You have okay max stats. You have good recovery. There is one stamina recovery glyph here. And you've got decent weapon damage, 5.5k. Your resistances are a little bit low, but we'll get onto that. Your penetration is insane, really good. And that's your effective weapon power is about 9k. That's against an 18k resist target. So assuming you've debuffed them, that'll probably be around where they're at. So it's not bad, but there are very simple things already that you can do to make it better. So going back to the resistances, you have low resistances, and the argument might be that you use Wild Hunt. It increases your movement speed, and you're using movement speed as mitigation. But the problem is that Wild Hunt, it increases your movement speed by 15%. Now you may notice, and I've made a copy of the exact same build here, so I can change it around and then refer back to the other build. You may notice that Swift trait on its own is 7%. So 2 Swift traits on your jewelry is equal to the exact same amount as what Wild Hunt gives you while you're in combat. Well, it's 1% more, but you're not going to notice that. So you could, instead of running Wild Hunt, run 2 Swift trait on your jewelry, and then in turn you can drop the mythic, and I'll put Heartlands here. You can do it infused because I already have the 2 Swift traits, and then you can run a monster set, and I'm going to put Magma here. And it doesn't matter too much about the traits because you won't be able to see that on the stat sheet. So when Magma is up and it's got an uptime of 66%, you already have better stats than what you did originally. You have the exact same playstyle, a fast Templar, two-handed, sword and board. You've still got the exact same movement speed, but you have more resistances, you have more weapon damage, and you have more recovery. Just by dropping Wild Hunt and running 2 Swift instead. You actually only have more recovery because of the Incarnate one piece. I forgot about that. So if you're originally running Bloodspawn, you'll have the same recovery. But the point still stands. You still have more resistances and weapon damage. And your first point might be, well, it's only 66% uptime. Sure, but this is 100% uptime on worse stats. This, without this procs, is the same stats as you had here. Okay, so already you are getting a 66% uptime on what is a better build. Objectively, it's not at this point preference, it's maths. It's the exact same playstyle, it's the exact same thing. It's the same thing, but it's better. It's a better version of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what it looks like with a back bar and a front bar set while keeping the exact same playstyle with the exact same thought in mind of a speedy Templar with two-handed and sword and board. And there's no other way for me to do that than to just spend some time creating the build now. What I have here is the most optimized version of the same build and the same playstyle that I could find. I don't know if it's definitely the best, but it's the best that I could find in the time that I've been doing it. And what you'll notice is that it has the exact same things, the exact same feeling. It's got the same movement speed because we're running these 2 Swift traits, but it also has more health, more stamina, more weapon damage. It has more resource management because although the recovery is less, we are running Essence Thief, which is the equivalent to about 700 recovery. It has more resistances by a long way. And it also has more effective weapon power overall. So it has less penetration, but because of the 10% from Essence Thief, and because the weapon damage is so much more higher, the effective weapon power is also way higher. So this build is better in pretty much every single way. Your first thought might be, well, I don't like Clever Alchemist. I don't like having to proc it with a potion. I don't like that it's only a 50% uptime, and that's fine. You could run though instead Powerful Assault, which is a 100% uptime, and still get more damage and have a more stat dense build than the original New Moons and Heartlands. You may also be thinking, I don't like Essence Thief. I don't like the fact that when I light attack someone, the little green thing that comes out of them always goes up a rock or somewhere where I can't get it, and that's totally understandable. Because I'm running Essence Thief, I changed my Mundus to the Warrior. You could change it back to the Stamina Recovery Mundus, and instead here, run Deadly or run Stoons or whatever front bar set you want to run. And that would be fine. These kind of things are preference. Running Deadly instead of Essence Thief, running Powerful Assault instead of Alchemist. I can understand why someone might want one over the other. However, running New Moons and Heartland, something that gives absolutely nothing compared to what running a front bar set and a back bar set with a mythic with the exact same playstyle. That's not preference. That's objectively worse. It's about optimization. It's about optimizing the playstyle that you want. So that kind of concludes the video. I hope you can see now why Heartlands is absolute dog shit, because you can get the same, or you can do the exact same build with the exact same playstyle. But running a back bar set and a front bar set is more stat dense than running a double bar, 2 double bar sets actually. And slapping Heartlands on everything is not going to solve your fucking problems, okay? Just stop it. And I know there is an element of, well, I don't have that much time to play, so I just get the easiest build and just do it because I just want to play. And I get that, I really do, because I have the same problems. But next patch, there kind of isn't really an excuse, because the way they've changed the loot system means it's going to be so easy to get the sets that you need. It's going to be so easy to get the Essence Thief or the Magma or whatever it is that you want. It's going to be so quick to drop. So think of it this way. The patch is up for 2-3 months, I'm not sure. And you might only have an hour, 2 hours to play per night. Spend 1 week in those 2 hours farming the sets that you need per night, or whenever it is that you can play. Then by that week, you're going to have everything that you need for the whole patch, and you're not going to be putting yourself at really stupid disadvantage for no reason. I've done an actual serious video. I hope it's been informative. Would you like to see more informative videos? I mean, I know I joke about, but like, come on, look at this. That was pretty informative, right? Pretty professional patch notes video. So I hope you can, give me a like and subscription, I guess. That's what I do now. I do the professional YouTube stuff. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. And that's it from me, Steady Eddie. I'll be back next week with another video. See you later.